So you got the thing you wanted, the job, the relationship, the house, the car, the achievement you worked years for. And for a while, days, weeks, maybe months, it felt like enough until it wasn't enough. So this video is about happiness and the relativity of happiness. It's very interesting. And in general, what happens then is you start to assume there's something wrong with you. Like you start telling yourself that you're restless or that you don't appreciate what you've got or enough is never enough or that you're broken in some way because nothing ever satisfies you. But it's not you. It's a mechanism. It's a psychological mechanism. And it's been studied since 1978. My name is John. I'm studying psychotherapy and I love all this stuff. So the term is hedonic. Hedonic, you know the term anhedonic. Anhedonic means you can't enjoy anything. The term is hedonic adaptation, and it describes your brain's tendency to return to a baseline of happiness after either a high or a low. So both positive and negative, regardless of how big that change was. And the study that proved it compared lottery winners to people who've been paralyzed in accidents. And the findings of the research showed that the difference in happiness between the two sets, it was actually three sets of people involved, was almost nothing. They were the same happy, basically. So in this video, why your brain neutralizes the things you achieve and what a 1978 study about lottery winners reveals about the limits of circumstance. So basically summing up, why the thing that actually makes you happy is not what happened to you or what you've achieved, but it's what you do every single day that actually makes you happy. So we all tend to operate under the same assumption. If I get this thing, I'll be happy. If I achieve this, I'll feel satisfied. If I fix this problem, the weight will lift. And the weight it does lift. It does feel good, but briefly. The new promotion feels incredible, but for a while. The new car feels exciting, but only for a few months. The new relationship that consumed your entire being starts to feel normal after a while. And then you find yourself looking around for the next thing. And it's not because you don't appreciate what you have already. It's just that feeling of excitement faded. It just wore off. You see, most people interpret this feeling as like greed or ingratitude or like a failing within themselves to be able to appreciate the things that they have. And then they start to ask themselves, oh, why can't I just feel grateful or be happy with what I have? They start to feel guilty about it. I know I've asked myself that question, and I presume you're here because you've asked yourself the same question too. So in 1978, Philip Brickman, Dan Coates, and Ronnie Bullman published a study that became one of the most cited papers in history on the research of happiness. So they interviewed three groups of people. They interviewed a group of people who won the lottery, a significant win, something between 50,000 and $1 million. Okay. That was set one. The second set of people were the winner's neighbors who didn't win anything. And the third set of people were people who were paralyzed in some form of accident. And the results should have been fairly obvious, but they really weren't. So, lottery winners rated their happiness at a 4.0 on a 5-point scale. Their neighbors who had won nothing rated theirs at a 3.82. It's not a meaningful difference at all. The people who had had their lives transformed by sudden wealth were barely happier than the people living next door to them who hadn't won anything. And it actually gets stranger because the lottery winners themselves recorded taking significant less happiness out of everyday activities, which means in general they were actually unhappier. Like eating breakfast or enjoying a cup of tea or reading a book or talking to a friend or something like that became meaningfully less happiness inducing. So basically, what that means is the winning had inflated their expectation of happiness to a point where normal life then seemed mundane and flatter by comparison. And the accident victims, they rated their present happiness at 2.96, which is lower, yes. But they also rated their expected future happiness at a 4.32, which shows they have a better outlook on life, which is higher than the lottery winners' expected future happiness of a flat 4.2. And the accident victims' pleasure in everyday activities was a 3.48, which was also higher than the lottery winners of 3.33. So there's a few different ways you can look at those numbers. You can look at those numbers from like a pessimism versus optimism kind of look, or happiness in everyday life. Or the way I choose to look at it is the people who had lost the most were finding more joy in everyday life than the people who had gained the most, which is on a backhand showing that happiness is absolutely relative. So that's hedonic adaptation. Your brain has a baseline or a happiness spectrum, a range in which you generally feel happy in. And no matter how big a change or how big an impact, both positive or negative, your brain is always going to want to pull back to that baseline. And that's after almost virtually any change. For example, you win the lottery and the feeling initially feels amazing, but then it slowly fades away until you're back where you started. Except now, ordinary pleasures feel duller by comparison. And that goes the same for the opposite. So, for example, you lose the use of your legs, and the initial feeling is devastating. But then slowly, not fully now, but meaningfully, claws back to where you started because your brain is adjusting to the new normal. And what this is saying, what this is explaining, is not that the events themselves don't matter, because of course they do. It's that the emotions behind the events, the emotions that you felt, are temporary. And that's by design. Imagine you had to feel everything you ever felt always for the rest of your life. You'd explode. So your nervous system treats happiness the same way it'll treat temperature, for example. It adapts to it. It changes what the new normal is because it's your nervous system's job to keep you running, not to keep you delighted or ecstatic or in constant pain the whole time. So the metaphor the researchers use, or coined, if you will, is the hedonic treadmill. So you walk or you run on this treadmill, but you never get any further. You're always in the same place you started, or end back up, or end back in the same place you started, because the belt is moving underneath you. So you put in all this effort and you make progress and you achieve things, you achieve actual things. But in terms of how you actually feel from day to day, you're roughly in the same place you were before you started. So Brickman and Campbell coined that term in 1971, but it genuinely has held up extraordinarily well over decades and decades of further research on top of it. Because the core insight hasn't changed at all. So circumstantial improvements, so more money or more power or more items or a new car, produce diminishing emotional returns because your emotions adapt to every new level gained. So then in 2005, there was another research paper published based upon the idea that if circumstances don't move the happiness needle in any meaningful way, then what does? So their model proposed that sustained happiness is influenced by three factors. It's half your genetics, your genetic set point of happiness, which is your baseline temperament or your happiness spectrum, what your happiness actually the parameters that your happiness fluctuates within, or the range your happiness fluctuates within. And then only around 10% comes from your circumstances. So your income or your location, your house, your car, your relationship. And then the remaining 40% comes from intentional activities. So what you actually do, how you actually think, like the daily practices and choices that shape your human experience. But the important thing to note here is it's only 10% from circumstances, which is the thing that most people spend their entire lives optimizing. More money, better job, bigger house, bigger car. And that 10%, that factor only accounts for the smallest proportion of sustained happiness. So we're focused on the wrong place to be happy. And sorry, it's not because those things don't matter. It's because you adapt to them when you have them, which raises your happiness bar. And you're always going to adapt to them. So then that leaves the 40% factor, which is intentional activities. It's where the leverage you can control actually lives. And it's the part that you're going to find that most people even unwillingly ignore, because it doesn't feel like progress. It doesn't come with like a promotion letter or a new set of keys or a different color on your car. It's hard to quantify it. And here's what makes this harder than it sounds. It's not just that your brain adapts to all of your achievements. It's that your brain will constantly believe that the next achievement is going to be the one that sticks. It's an internal chase for the next thing. That this time it will be different. This time is going to be the achievement in my life that will make everything feel like enough from then on. But it doesn't happen like that. And there's a reason you keep believing that. There's a reason I keep believing that, because your brain, my brain, is always systematically wrong about how much you're able to change as a person, or how much you're going to change as a person. Because you look at yourself now and you kind of assume that you're more or less a finished product. That the person you are now is not going to be very, very different from the person you're going to be in 5 years. And that's wrong. And it's also a completely separate bias that we're going to actually talk about in the next video, which is also wildly interesting. But we had to talk about what we're talking about now before that one. So if the treadmill is real, okay, and if your brain will neutralize almost any positive change you make, does that mean that nothing matters, or that trying is pointless, or pursuing anything is pointless? No. It just means that we're focusing on the wrong thing. It means we're pursuing the wrong thing. And most people are pursuing the wrong thing, and it's no fault of their own, because nobody has ever explained this treadmill idea to them, to you, to me. So three things the research actually supports for working with hedonic adaptation rather than against it. So this is what will actually help. Number one, invest in experiences over possessions. Your brain adapts to possessions far more quickly than it's ever going to adapt to memories. So for example, the new car will become mundane after just a couple of months. But a trip, even a conversation or a night you'll never forget, those memories will not be flattened nearly as quickly as the new car would be, or the new house. And the reason they don't flatten the same way is partly because your brain actually idolizes memories. It treats them differently over time rather than neutralizing them. So this is something that your brain does that is definitely working to your advantage here. So second, vary what you do. Vary how you get excitement in your life, and vary your daily achievements. Variety, the research proves that variety slows the adaptation. Doing the same wonderful, exciting thing every day speeds up the treadmill. It's like the law of diminishing returns. Changing how and where and when you do those positive things keeps the emotional return higher for longer. So, so routine is the enemy of sustained happiness, because your brain adapts to routines faster. And third, practice gratitude as the deliberate interruption of adaptation. You see, the reason I stopped noticing the wonderful view from my windows is because my brain had registered, or began to register, the view as normal. So consciously re-registering it, not just performing gratitude, but fully noticing that it's there again, temporarily will reverse the adaptation. I've noticed it in myself. And it doesn't last forever, but it does reset the clock, and it's something you can do again and again and again and again. Re-noticing things. So it re-registers in your brain as a good thing. So the thing that changed for me with all this wasn't learning what hedonic adaptation is. I could have learned that in a textbook or a research paper online. What changed, the big thing that changed for me, was the ability to recognize it in myself. With the view out my windows, the car, the change of career path, the goals I've set for myself over the past couple of years and achieved. Like all those moments that working towards, arriving at, and then them fading into the chaos of the background, or the mundaneness of the background. Like achieving them and then immediately looking through them or looking past them. And it wasn't that I was ungrateful, because I like to think that I am grateful for what I have. But as soon as I got them, my brain was already looking through them towards the next thing. My brain had already moved on. And I still want things. I still set goals. I haven't stopped reaching, but I have stopped expecting the arrival of the goal to feel how I think it's going to feel. And knowing this, understanding the information, and knowing that there is a treadmill, it's a happiness spectrum, a baseline of happiness that you're going to return to, that your brain is always fighting to return to. Understanding that makes the walking easier and enjoyable. I now actually enjoy the walking. It's the power of information and understanding. My name is John. Thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. There's plenty more videos like this on the way, and other videos in the channel. that's slowly growing. Thank you.